5 pounds of cocaine were seized during a federal interdiction operation. Utah representatives discuss federal overreach and a comprehensive guide for hiking enthusiasts.
You're watching St. George News at 5.
Hurricane resident Jacob Herman was sentenced to prison for sexually abusing a child, a crime he confessed to over a year ago. Judge Eric A. Ludlow sentenced Herman to a minimum of 6 years to life in prison as part of a plea deal. The case began with an investigation in September 2022 after reports of abuse against a 10-year-old, and Herman admitted to the crime in November later that year in a police interview. Victim impact statements were heard during the sentencing where Herman expressed remorse before being taken into custody to start serving his sentence immediately. 5 pounds of suspected cocaine were seized at a St. George bus stop. A federal interdiction operation led to the arrest of 31-year-old Anthony Lewis of Los Angeles, California. Lewis was arrested on charges of possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance after a canine alerted officers to the presence of narcotics in his backpack. Lewis, who used a false name to book the shuttle, remains in custody without bail, with the case under review by the Washington County Attorney's Office. On Tuesday in Snow Canyon State Park, an early morning motorcycle ride ended in a crash near the Lava Tube trailhead. Police say the rider lost control while navigating a turn. Emergency responders, including Intermountain Life Flight, attended to the injured rider, whose condition remains undisclosed. Authorities note that excessive speed is often a factor in motorcycle incidents in the area. Utah Representatives Celeste Malloy and John Curtis convened a House subcommittee hearing at Sand Hollow Resort to address concerns over federal overreach. Here's Maury Kessler with more on the story.
School trust lands and how much.
Utah Representatives Celeste Malloy and John Curtis hosted a House subcommittee field hearing at the Rock Bowl of the Sand Hollow Resort on Monday that focused on issues of federal overreach and acting in bad faith related to public lands in the state. Malloy and Curtis were joined by fellow Utah Congressman Blake Moore, as well as a handful of witnesses asked to testify at the hearing. Following the hearing, Malloy and Curtis summed up what they felt the primary takeaway was.
The main message from this hearing is that the system we have is not working well for the people of Utah. We have a lot of public land in our state, and in order to do things like plan roads, we have to go through federal processes, and the federal processes are so broken and so onerous that these are decades-long processes when they should be months-long processes, and that's expensive. It's inefficient, it doesn't work well for anybody, it keeps a bunch of lawyers in business, but it isn't serving the people of Utah well, and that's what we were trying to draw out into the sunlight and let the public be part of solving today.
Well, we clearly wanted to point out how hard it is to work with the federal government on these difficult public lands issues, and how hard particularly this community has worked to satisfy the federal government. So here in St. George, for decades, they have been working on what's called the Northern Corridor to get a transportation route through there. They have run into environmental concerns, and they haven't taken those lightly. They've worked very, very hard to satisfy those, and in every case, satisfied the demands, and yet the goalpost keeps moving.
Critics of the hearing, such as Holly Snow Canada of Conserve Southwest Utah, said it was full of misinformation and lacked transparency due to not allowing public comment.
So today's hearing excluded local and Indigenous voices. It was full of misinformation and irony and hypocrisy. We're out here today. This hearing was announced about only 1 week ago. It's being held in the middle of the workday during the hottest part of the day, and at a location that's about a half an hour drive from St. George. It's challenging to get here. We heard from a lot of people who couldn't be out in the sun all day, who wanted to be here, but couldn't make it out here, or they had to work.
Noting the lack of other committee members and witnesses with contrary opinions, Curtis said both Republican and Democratic members of the committee had been invited to take part with their own witnesses, yet chose not to attend.
Desert Hill Softball came on top as they swept Snow Canyon, claiming the Region 9 championship. This being the team's first season winning the Region 9 title outright. They finished off the season with an impressive 10-0 record. The boys soccer teams from Dixie and Snow Canyon are both 7-1 in region play, while Crimson Cliffs is 1 game behind at 6-1. Playoffs are right around the corner as the two teams fight to take on the Region 9 title.
Stuart M. Green's upcoming book, Hiking Waterfalls, Utah, a guide to the state's best waterfall hikes, offers a comprehensive resource for hiking enthusiasts, featuring stunning visuals and detailed trail information catering to various skill levels. Here's Stephanie DeGraw with more on this guide.
An author is releasing a book in June naming the best waterfall hike adventures. Hiking Waterfalls, Utah, A Guide to the State's Best Waterfall Hikes by Stuart M. Green combines beautiful photography with facts and locations. It's user-friendly for all experience levels. Green had this to say.
The thing is about Utah, there's a lot of waterfalls, but most of them aren't named. And a lot of them people don't really know about unless you're a local and you go hiking around in some of these places. So I was able to pick out hikes that were appropriate for a wide range of abilities, from easy hikes to more difficult ones. There's no really difficult, challenging long hikes in the book, though.
The hikes in the book have trails leading to them, so he won't be sending people to places where there are no paths.
Thank you for watching St. George News at 5. I'm Christy Langenheim with St. George News, your #1 source for local news.
This has been St. George News at 5.